Hello and welcome back to Heiner Builds Your Ride with me and the star of the show, which is today a 79 series Landcruiser. This one has been done or planned by Luke. There's almost no input from me. So Luke has planned everything. The crew has installed everything. I've just actually stepped back, had a look from a distance, and it turned out so well. And the only reason Luke is not presenting this is because he's boring on camera. But before I get into too much detail, let's roll the intro. I think the guys have really outdone themselves here. If you have a look around, all the neat wiring under the bonnet. This is the main fuse for the 250 amp brushless alternator. We're still waiting on the parts, so all the wiring is there. That's why the fuse is still missing at this stage. Then we've got the twin MIDI fuses on top of the battery. Everything labeled with plastic labels. You got the winch, the main alternator input. We've also got a battery link here, because you got a secondary battery and a switch on the inside to link those batteries together with a Redarc SBI12 solenoid. You've also got DC-DC charging for that secondary battery. This had already been installed previously and we just left it in. With the big alternator, it can easily charge 25 amps into that battery and then 60 amps into the back, but I'll get to that a little bit later. We usually put the SBI12 from Redarc, the link solenoid for the batteries. It's sitting down here, you can hardly see it at all. We mount it onto that cross member that goes across the bottom there, the radiator support bracket, I think it's called as well, which keeps it out of the way. There's covers on it, so just in case somebody drops a spanner in there, they don't start arc welding. We always use this accessory fuse box, so the spotties, the driving lights have been wired through here. There's spare fuses in there as well. There's an input fuse from the DC-DC charger to the secondary battery. That is all that is connected to it. The only other thing that's connected to it through these big cables is the engine block on negative and this battery positive here. So in case you flatten this battery, you can just press a switch on the inside, link the batteries together and jumpstart yourself from your battery under the bonnet. We've also installed the aerial here for the GME XRS 370 two-way system. And we've used one of our cool new solar brackets. These are generic brackets that are being sold with our dual battery system for the 300 series Landcruiser, but these brackets can be used in all sorts of other vehicles. So we've used that here for the solar input under the bonnet because the customer wanted to keep the front of the car clean. The customers brought these in. We installed the ARB intensity lights for him, including a driving light harness. And this is about it under the bonnet in the front here. I'll show you a bit more inside the cab. We've got the driving light switch on this side here. So when you want to use your driving lights, you have to have the switch on, and then when you turn high beam on, it turns the driving lights on. Or if you're around town and you want to use high beam, you turn it off and you've just got your normal headlight high beams. Come around the other side, I'll show you a bit more what's in here. One thing that is extremely cool in here is you can control the rear airbags from the cab. So the two-way radio, you can just plug that into the dash and it turns on and off with accessories, which is quite handy because you can't forget it that way. I turn it off now. We don't need to hear the chatter on the radio. And if you don't need it, you can just unplug it, put it in the glove box. The cool thing here is, as you can see, we've got the airbag controls right here. So you can see the left-hand side airbag pressure and the right-hand side airbag pressure. And I can actually control that with these two switches here. So we can inflate the pressure. You can see the pressure goes up on the gauge, or I can deflate it. And the car sinks down in the back. So if you have to level out the back of the car because you want to sleep in the rooftop tent, you can actually do that from the cab. But there's more to this because the canopy on this car can be taken off. So if you want to take off the canopy, you can release, first of all, you pump it up all the way, then you put the legs in, wind it up so that they are firm on the ground. You release the pressure from the airbag, the back of the car sinks down, and you can just drive out. We'll show that to you a little bit later. What you've also got is you've got your Redarc Tow Pro brake controller in here. You've got left-hand side and right-hand side work lights. As you can see, these are on now, but if I turn accessory off, they turn off as well. The customer wanted these accessory triggered for driving so he cannot forget to turn them off when he arrives somewhere, and they would automatically turn back on. He said that's good for him for bush driving. I agree, it's a great idea. And you've also got the battery link here that I was talking about before. So you press this button, light comes on, both batteries are linked now, and you can either winch off both batteries, or in case you have an alternator failure, you can drive off both batteries. And if you want to jump start yourself, you can do that through here as well. We've also installed this rear view camera system. You can see the ladder is in front of it now. It's underneath the tray. It's a real wide angle camera. So as soon as you turn accessories on, this turns on. And even though you can't, see anything out of the back, this still looks like you're looking out of the back of the car. To mount these, we always use one of these short ram mounts. So you can release this and you can adjust this any way you possibly want. These also work quite well if you put an SD card into them. See, there's a front camera on here as well. The rear camera is on the back. If you actually put an SD card in here, this thing at the same time is a dash cam that monitors the front and the back, which I find extremely handy to have all of that in the same system. Put that back the way it is. It's got a lot more cool features, but that is the majority of what we use. And if you turn accessories off, this thing turns off a few seconds later as well. You can time in, it's got an internal battery, so you can put a time delay in so it keeps recording for an hour if you want to. Heaps of cool features on that one. Also, which you can see there, we've replaced the interior light with a National Lunar light. So you got the white light in here, or if you hold it for a bit longer, switches to orange. Got a nice orange light inside the car. Really good when you want to keep the bugs out. Let's go to the back and have a look around. On here, these are the lights I just talked about, the ones that are being switched from the dash, accessory triggered. They're the Lazerlamps Utility 25 work lights. Brilliant work lights, these ones. They can still be adjusted a bit depending on how the customer likes it. Then we've also got some white and orange lights in here. White and orange. These are not dimmable. But on top of that, we've also got the National Lunar lights under the roof in here. These are the jack legs I was talking about before. So they can go into the side here. You dial them down all the way. And once they're down, you can release the pressure from the airbags. The car sinks down, the tray stands mid-air, and you can just drive out and just reverse order to get back in. Also in here, we've got the ARB twin piston compressor with the switch right here. The customer wanted the switch in the back. You can actually leave this on. Another really cool thing here is, as you can see, there is no air tank in here. And that is because this part here, this is the air tank. You can see the compressor hose coming in here. This tray here has been built by MKW Engineering. And I think this idea is just genius because this whole bar is a big air tank. This side is being used to fill it up. On the other side, you've got the connector to put your tire inflation gear in or the hose with whatever you want. And you use the compressed air. Absolute genius idea. I love it. Also in here, the goodies. We've got two 100 amp hour lithium batteries in here. We did go for 2 batteries so we can get a maximum current out of this that can actually run a 3000 watt inverter. So these batteries can do 175 amp maximum discharge each, which will give us 350 amp continuous, which is plenty for the big inverter. So that takes up to 250 amp when it's running flat out continuously. And these batteries can quite easily handle that. One of the things with the Redarc inverters is that they are twin isolated in between ground and your power side, your neutral or your active. The problem with that is that these haven't got what is called a MEN relay or MEN switch inside. So normal RCDs are very hard to work with these, and it's not exactly up to the standard. So when we install them, we use floating earth RCDs, which are quite expensive, but they are really safe to use with this. So the way this works is that the output of the inverter goes into the RCD, and then we've got a twin GPO on this side and another twin GPO on the other side. And this RCD is actually protecting these outlets just in case you would actually touch one of the actives, one of the voltage carrying parts of the plug. This RCD will then detect that the current that went out to one of these cables is not coming back on the other cable, so it's a differential switch, and it will automatically trip the circuit breaker and you're safe. You're actually not gonna die from being electrocuted by 240 volt. Other stuff that we've got here, power supply to the tent itself. We've got another Lazerlamps Utility 25 work light up here, another one up here, and then down here you've also got a rear drawer here. The cool thing is the extra lid, because this makes it dust proof. Can't open it too far that way because you got a ladder there, but this is perfect for big things, recovery gear, shovels, whatever you want to put in there, or even tools that you want to keep clean. And then down here we've got another Utility 25 reverse work light. We've got the camera for the mirror system mounted down here. There's your manual filler points for the airbags. Anderson plug down here for charging a trailer. So this has really got the works on it. Gravity fed water outlet from the tank underneath the tray. And then the really cool stuff is happening here. So the really cool stuff is back in here. You can see that in the B-roll of this video. We have got a Redarc TVMS system. We have got a Manager 30, a BCDC 1225D, and then obviously the screen here. We've got some light switches, solar input. We even got a shore power input for the Manager itself. So if you want to charge the batteries in here, you can just plug a 15 amp power cord in here. That goes directly to the Manager 30 and it starts charging the battery. We've also got the Bushman upright fridge in here with a little freezer compartment for your ice cubes. And then we've got the TVMS system in here. So what you can do is, this is where you can turn the rear lights on and off, but you can also do that through the switches here. So if I press this switch here, we've used the external input triggers on the TVMS. As you can see now, this light is on. I press this again, it turns off. So these switches can override the software switch in the TVMS. We've also got internal lights in here. We've got the fridge being powered through here. We've got 240 volt inverter being switched on and off through here. And a cool thing that we usually do is things like the fridge, for example, you don't want to turn off under any circumstances, except for in the fridge itself. So if you turn the system off, now everything's turned off. Your charge outlets don't work anymore, but you can see we've locked out the fridge, so you cannot turn the fridge off. And also this circuit here, which is the interior lights of the canopy, because you also don't want to turn them off in case you get to the vehicle and you want to turn lights on before you turn everything else on. You can still use the switches on the lights. They've always got power. And then when you turn this back on, now everything else has got power as well. And obviously the fridge has always got power. If you want to turn it off, all you need to do is dial this to 0 and then the fridge is off. We've also got our solar input here. So if you want to connect a solar blanket, you can do this right here. Just plug the solar blanket in. It goes through the regulator in the Manager and it will show up under solar here. We've also got solar on the roof, which you can see on the front of the tent up there. There's a 200 watt Redarc solar panel on there. They're quite efficient. And that together with the 300 watt KT solar blanket that you can plug in here, I don't think this guy will ever run out of power. In this section here you've got all the bits and pieces that you need to take the canopy off, which is exactly one plug. As you can see here, as soon as you disconnect this plug, the whole canopy is disconnected and is completely self-sustained. So you can put that on its legs somewhere with the tent on top. The fridge and everything will keep going. The solar will keep it going and charging as well. And you basically got a very fancy tent with the kitchen on the side of it. Lights everywhere around it. It's an absolute brilliant system. I love this setup. And then if you want to put it back on, you just drive the car back in, you plug this back in, this gets connected directly to the start battery, and as soon as the engine runs, the batteries start charging in here again. Also, you've got the ARB compressor air outlet here, which you can see the hose goes down here and connects to this big metal pipe, which is the air tank for the compressor. Yeah, this is your kitchen part of the setup, really big storage area, and then also a really big table area. I have to say, quality-wise, the work that the guys from MKW Engineering have done is sensational. Also, this box here is such a great idea. It makes it so neat. You can just take this plate off, all the electrics go inside here. This is a really nice area for all your electrics, and it just makes sense. It looks so good. I love this build. I'll definitely drive this car. So let me show you, when you want to do the suspension, obviously you leave the compressor on, which is still inflated. So I've released all the air out of the rear airbags, so the vehicle is as low down as it can be. And what I'm doing now, the compressor has already pumped the air tank up. I'm just gonna inflate them, and I can check how I want to inflate them. So let's say even if I'm parked on unlevel ground, but I want to sleep in the tent, I can now level out to a certain degree the rear just with the airbags. I'm gonna fully inflate them now. So I can check on my display here. On my display here you can see how the pressure increases. Compressor has kicked in, the back of the vehicle is coming up. So the airbags are at 100 psi in the back now. The whole car has gone up a fair bit, and you can release air again if you want to. You see the pressure drops, that's because the car is still being lifted out of its springs a little bit. You just pump a bit more. And you can do each side individually, so I could release the left-hand side. Now the left-hand side sinks down a little bit, and I can level out the car to a degree if I wanted to, or pump it back up. And let's say I want to get the canopy off. This is the setting where I would start, about 100 psi. You put the jack legs in now, you wind them down all the way so that they're firm on the ground, and then you just go and release the pressure. So now you can see the whole vehicle sinking down, and that would automatically lift the canopy off the tray. Once you're down all the way, all you have to do is drive forward and you're free of the canopy. Mission accomplished, I would say. All that's left to do now is give this car our patch of approval. This one's now ready to drive anywhere. Thank you for watching and see you for the next one.